this. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Shay Ali here with you on Inspired Online. And this afternoon, I'm joined by the lovely Remy Bertrand. Now, Remy and I met many years ago, actually, when I thought, I was singing at the time and someone suggested, why don't you do some acting classes? And so I looked him up and he does this, well, he runs an amazing group called Imprology. And it was my introduction into improv. And it was such an amazing experience to go along to these classes. So it's really getting people into the art of physical movement. So I love that. And what can you do with physical movement to really improvise that and bring joy to audiences? So not only does he do that, but also he runs a night now online called Love Explosion, where you know, people come together, new improvisers or people that have no introduction into improv at all, and just creates these beautiful safe spaces for people to play. And I thought, well, we need that energy of play, we need the energy of, you know, improvising a little bit in life. So I thought I'd invite him on the show, and it's lovely to have you. Welcome, Remy. Thank you for coming along this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I'm going to start with our usual inspired question of, if you had to share your wisdom with the world in a nutshell, what would you say?
If you fail, you know, learn from it and try again. And well, there's this one, another one. Yes, no, probably. Okay, forget this one. No, this other one I really like. It's kind of a piece of Facebook wisdom. Stay on the bus. Stay on the bus.
Stay on the bus. I love
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Mm.
And how do you think the stay on the bus has served you in improv and in life?
Um, Before I started my company, because before I studied in Proj, I was you know, I was already like I wasn't young any longer. I studied in Proj, I was 39, and before that I used to change job every 2 years, 1 2 years. You know, once I felt that I didn't learn anything from what I was doing,
Mm.
and it's kind of, yeah, it's fine, you know, it's fine to do that, but in the meantime, if you want to acquire any deep knowledge of what you're doing, you're gonna have to stay in the bus,
Yeah.
you know, and to keep going. So in a way, for me, it's easy to do that as an improv teacher, because I still learn every day, so I've got the strong motivation, you know. But yeah, I would stay, you know, I would say we can master anything given time, you know. So if you're really interested into something, stay in the bus.
Stay on the bus. I love that. And you know, obviously I've been to quite a few of your improv classes, and I love this idea of physical energy that you bring to that. So how did that start? How was that born in your life?
I guess because English is a second language for me, and I started doing improv with people who were very, very, uh, you know, hooked on verbal expression and puns, and you know, play on words, and so everything was very, very verbal. And for me, it was like it was super hard in a way, because I didn't have the flow. I had to, you know, I think at the time, that was years ago, but I was probably still thinking in French. I was still probably dreaming in French.
Mm.
Um, so I got interested in other stuff in improv, which is stuff that is not represented very much in the improv world, in the comedy improv world, which is basically physicalization.
Mm.
And I think that for a long, long while, when I was teaching, I thought that the most important thing for a performer to do, if you want to improvise, is to have the capacity to connect with yourself, because anxiety makes us disconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get a shallow breath and blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, you know, trying to do something without having access to all the resources that you have, all the natural resources. So
Mm.
then we tend to go in our head into bullshit, some kind of stuff, because we think that's more or less the way it should look like, or the way it should feel. And, you know, why there's so many cliche very often in improv, I think, because people don't allow themselves to access the really good stuff.
Absolutely. So, that is one of the things that we do in class, was to help people connect with themselves. But for the people watching at home that maybe have never done improv, what would you say is like a first step to really how to connect with yourself?
Breath,
Mm.
and time, putting time on your side, and breathing. Just this simple act of taking a nice breath automatically puts us back inside. And yeah, to me it was for years I thought, the important thing is outside, is the capacity to see other people, to connect with other people. And it's true, it's super important to be present to others. But if we're not present to ourselves, then we're missing half the picture, you know.
Absolutely.
So sometimes, for example, so nowadays I teach online, of course, and sometimes you're going to start a scene and nothing much happen
Hmm.
for a moment. And it's actually, if you allow for this time to happen, because this time is really important, it's not just dead time, it's also the moment where two people are just in each other's presence,
Yeah.
and you just allow this to happen, and then the connection form. And if there's no panic, if there's no, oh my god, I've got to come up with something, I've got to come up, but you just allow that to happen, then the connection form. And then what tend to happen is way more original, interesting, organic, that trying to force ideas and stuff.
I love that. And you've run this night called Love Explosion. I don't know for how many years, but many years
Yeah,
now.
7 or 8 years. Yeah.
7 or 8 years. And some people come to that night having had no experience of being on stage, and
Mhm.
somehow everybody seems to get on stage that night. What's the magic in encouraging people? Because you have created a very, very safe space for people to play. So
Yeah, and I think as well, the more times goes on, and the more I'm mellowing as well, and I realize how important this is. Um, I mean, there's two things. I got a friend who used to be with a company called Showstoppers, which is probably the biggest improv company in the UK. Yeah,
yeah, they're
they,
fantastic.
you know them, yeah.
Yeah,
They're
I did
amazing.
one of their classes too, would you believe?
So they improvise musicals. Yes, so
Yeah.
for the people who don't know them, they feature in the West End. They have West End actors with them. They got an Olivier Award, blah blah blah. So there's kind of the people more or less at the top of their game in the UK at the moment. And I was asking my friend, so what's the difference? Between a good show and a bad show. Did you became aware of what was making the difference? And he said, well, yeah, it's super interesting question, and we thought about it a lot, and we were trying to find out, what happened before a show that make it, a good show, and what was missing when it was so not so much a good show.
Mm.
And he said that at the time, the conclusion they reached is that what happened very often before a good show is that everyone would hug each other. They
Oh.
would really take the time to connect, and to be there
Mm.
for each other. The Yanks, they codified that in, they got this ritual. Some people hate it, but they tapping each other in the back, and they'll say, "I've got you back," just before going on stage.
Yeah.
So in whatever way you're doing it, it's it's kind of showing each other that it's okay to be afraid, and we're going to be there for each other anyway,
Yeah.
and especially in Love Explosion, because you got people who never who don't want to be actors or whatever, who are just showing up because they're curious. They just want to find out what it's going to be like for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, and to me as a human being, my biggest challenge, and I'm still working on that, is that uh, I've been brought up as a man. I've been brought up to despise fear as weakness, as a as a display of weakness, as a display of weakness. And so when I see fear in other people, I've noticed that my first reaction is to be angry with them, like, man up, get a grip. Yeah, don't show your fear, because if you show your fear, you're gonna make other people afraid as well. And so it's the exact opposite for me. Impro is the exact opposite. Love Explosion is the exact opposite. Is to tell people, we will make space for whatever happened to you. We'll make space for it.
Yeah. I love that. And, you did mention at the beginning, before we talked about Stay on the Bus, we also talked about this concept of failure in improv.
Yeah.
The concept of failure being a gift, really. So can you tell us a bit more about that, and how can we apply that to life?
Yeah, I think what I see a lot in people who just join us for the first time, who come in my classes or come in Love Explosion, or come to improvise with us, is this idea that if I lose my face, if I do something that doesn't work, I'm letting other people down. Which is not true, because if you fail at something, you are actually helping other tones, because you're demonstrating something that doesn't work, and that's a lot of information, and that's a very generous thing to do. So in fact, I think that what is really happening is that we feel that we're letting ourselves down, and that we're kind of losing our dignity, and then we can't prevail any longer, because look, I've failed, I'm not that good, and I've got to reconcile myself with that. And because it's to improvise, it's impossible to equip people with a recipe that is infallible. It's just impossible, because otherwise you're not improvising any longer, you're just following a recipe. Yeah. And there's a lot of that out there. There's a lot of people who look super successful and consistent improvising, but just because they're not really. They're following a template, they're following a recipe or a stuff that makes it half improvised and half prearranged. But if you're really going to improvise, you are always running the risk of failure. And the beauty is, once you reconcile yourself with the possibility of failure, then you become way braver, way more adventurous, and way more curious, because also what you realize is that it's really, really, really hard to completely fuck things up.
Right.
Generally, there's a way to put it back together, or it's not that bad, it's not that big a problem, because other people, we're going to have your back, or whatever, it can be repaired. It's almost impossible to think of something that you could do which couldn't be repaired.
I love that. And how would it be if we all applied that to life as well as stage? I mean,
yeah. And that's one of the beauty of that, is that once we start coming to terms with that, there's a lot of anxiety that just disappear, and then we can give ourselves to the pursuit of other more interesting stuff than just keeping our dignity intact.
Absolutely. Let's go back to what you said about showstoppers, and I love what you said about at the beginning of each show they took that time to hug and connect, and obviously we're not really doing that right now. How do you think that translates into the online world? Because clearly improv has continued in some form, so how can we make sure that we connect online?
Yeah, that's a super interesting question. So when the first lockdown happened, I was in the middle of 2 cycles. So we finished them online,
Right.
and it was super tough. It was super tough, because we are probably one of the most physical improv school out there, or at least in this country, that's for sure. And so suddenly we didn't have that anymore. We didn't have touch. We didn't have sharing the space. And also, you've probably seen that with Zoom and this kind of stuff, sometimes you've got the energy drop. There's just a huge energy drop, which happen as well in the real space in improv because of anxiety. Sometimes people, go back into themselves, and it's like this huge energy drop, and that is a nightmare for a facilitator, especially if you still got the imposter syndrome. If you don't have much experience, you're like, oh my god, it's all my fault. What can I do? I need to, do something. And very often, I've seen a lot of that in me and in other, facilitators, is that you overcompensate by yourself, being very energetic and to compensate the loss of energy there.
Yeah.
But actually, so what happened is that I just realized I just had to go with it. In improv, huge principle is use what's there. Don't try to, don't allow what's there to take place. So actually, when this happened and there's a drop of energy and I don't pick it up, often what happened is that someone else is going to step up to the mark. And so what happened then is that we got a much more democratic meeting and a bit more of a distributed leadership.
Wow. Okay.
Which is a really nice feeling. And to recover this sense of connection, one of the things we would do, for example, at the beginning of a call like that, of a Zoom call, everyone is on screen, and we'll spend a few moments in silence, just looking at each other and just being in each other's presence without feeling pressurized, with saying something or doing something. We just let our curiosity, guide us, and just take a good look at everyone and just share ourselves. And that kind of do the trick,
Yeah, if only more people did that. I think, a lot of times we just go straight into it with our work and stuff like that. But
yeah,
I think there's a real message there, and just really noticing the person that's there and what can you do? Are there any questions going through your head while you're sharing the space with someone? Is there something that you say to yourself?
And this is also super interesting, to notice the person you're with, and to also notice your own curiosity toward this person or toward this particular moment, and to practice this thing, which is noticing things without necessarily judging them, without necessarily putting an adjective on them. Is just, oh, okay, so I'm doing this now. Oh, I've and this also is super useful in improv. Because also, when you were asking me this question about, what makes, this positive thing that we're trying to spread and things, is something I realize more and more, the difference between a scripted and an improvised performance is that if you give negative feedback to someone who's doing a scripted performance, you're helping them because they, depending how you're giving them and who you are, and is that interesting information for them. But it might be information they use, so that the next time it will help them do things a little differently and be more successful. With improvisers, what I've seen a lot is there's a dread that descends upon people when you start criticizing them, because they already criticizing themselves so much that you're just joining the chorus of voice telling them, look, you're really bad, you should give up, or whatever. And the opposite is that if you point at the positive and said, well, this is really nice, this is really fruitful, or because I've never seen someone who couldn't shake off the anxiety and who subsequently went on stage and did something great. And I've never seen that. So I think that whether you're a facilitator, teacher, director, or even just a co-player, the main aim is to make people feel good, about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily easy, And sometime as well, you need to do a postmortem and you need to start explaining things. And, so I'm not necessarily in favor of positive psychology at all costs, all of the time. But when you prepare, when it's about people are about to go on stage, I don't think then is the time to point their mistakes or whatever.
Oh no. But yeah, I was, is there something, a mantra or something helpful that you say to yourself or that you've seen other people use, to just get them back into presence and being grounded?
Not necessarily mantra. So again, breathing. I'll never said that enough. Breathing is super important. For me, a way to get back in your body. Something I would use a lot to help people get back in their body is. Well, we can do it now if you want.
Let's do it.
Can you stand up?
I can. I'll probably not be on camera properly, but I can stand. Let's see. Yeah, well.
Okay, we can do that more or less off camera.
Yeah.
So if you close your eyes, okay, and you let go of your arms, okay, take one deep breath. And without necessarily moving, so it's not from an outsider perspective, it's from an insider perspective. So without moving them or anything, just locate your feet right now. Locate where they are in relation to the floor. Where are your heels in relation to the floor? And don't forget, as you do that, you're still breathing. Yeah. Still nice and easy breath. So just appreciate the relation you have between the feet, the sole of the feet, the heel, and the floor. And where is that situated? Yeah. And as you still breathe, locate your knees above your feet. Again, no need to move or anything. It's really from the inside. Yeah, it's all happening from the inside. And your breath is still nice and easy. And so you now have the floor, your feet in relation to the floor, your knees in relation to your feet. Locate your hips in relation to your knees. Yeah. And in relation to the floor. And then, we would go up and up and up through your backbones. Locate your backbones, locate your shoulders. Still keep an easy breath. Locate your head above your neck. Yeah. And you go all the way up and then, all the way down. So locate your head in relation to your feet, in relation to the floor, and all that is done quite easily. Yeah. It's nice and easy. Yeah. So we're going to stop that because it's just a demo.
Yeah. Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you're already just doing that and being aware of that relaxes your mind straight away, I would say.
And it's relax all your muscle at the same time because you become aware of them. Yeah. And all of that. Yeah. And that's, I would say, is 90% of the job. Is to come on stage with being as unburdened as possible.
Yeah, and not just the stage. I mean, people feel anxiety before going to work, no matter what they do. Some of them, or cool. So, it's just that moment to connect.
Keith Johnson, which was one of our, all-time saint, who wrote probably one of the most read and the most important book on impro, which is called Impro with no V, just Impro. Yeah. Said that your blood pressure will go up if you're alone in a room and one person come in this room, your blood pressure will go up. Yeah. Let alone, going to work, let alone going in the subway, being on stage in front of 2,000 people, one person will put your blood pressure up. So yeah, we're going through a lot of stress.
And I think these exercises are really important to just, counterbalance that and make sure that we are still connecting and it's great.
And the idea that, having feelings and sensations and all that is not a weakness. It's not a flaw. It's not, it's totally part of life.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So no, one of the other concepts in improv is the yes and concept as well. So I
Hmm.
was wondering if you can talk a little bit about that and how we can use that in life.
So I'm not a paid up member of the cult, yes and, uh, because it can turn into a bit of a cult. I think, and I think we need both. We need yes and, we need yes but, we also need no. I think especially as a woman, you if you come to an improv class, you need to feel empowered enough to tell people to back off if you
Yeah.
feel that they can't really feel where your boundaries are.
Mm.
So I think that empowering people to say whatever they want to say is quite important.
Yeah.
But the yes and thing is super useful because if we're anxious, of course, the first thing we want to say is no. Because if I say no, it's going to buy me time, and then I can think of something clever to do or say, and then I can come back to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's quite nice
Yeah.
to to work with that. But I think there's been a lot of borderline stuff happening in improv classes with this yes and business, and people are starting to awake to be fully awake on that. And yeah, I think that we need everything. Yeah, we need everything. uh, but yeah, if you want a little demo of on the difference, between yes and yes but, it's a totally different thing. So
Mm.
if you tell me, let's do this, let's do whatever, and then I will say that that's the yes and game. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say yes, and then we can blah 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 blah, and then you go yes, and then we can, yeah, blah blah blah. Do you want to play that? Shipa, let's go on a journey,
All right, let's do it.
and then you say yes, and then we can.
Okay. All right. Yes, and we can go and get a picnic on the way.
Yes, and then we can put the picnic in a neat little basket.
Oh, and the neat little
And
bath.
you say yes and each time, yeah, yes, and then we can.
Yes, and when we put the picnic in a neat little basket, we can also add some amazing drinks.
Yes, and then we can have pink champagne.
Yes, and we can take the most amazing champagne glasses I have at home because I haven't used them for a while.
Yes, and then we can go and have the picnic at the top of the tallest tower in the city.
Yes, and we can get to the top of the tallest tower in the city, not just by using the lift, but by taking some ropes and doing like a rock climbing pipe thing.
Yes, and then we can become all strong. So you see, it's easy. We build upon each other, blah blah blah. So that's for a lot of people, that is the absolute essence of improv, and that's where everything starts. Um, I don't necessarily agree, but I think it's a super useful tool to show people that if you embrace what your partner offers you, it gets you out of your head. It mellows the super critical voice and things. Now, if you want to contrast that with yes but, okay, so we're going to play the same game,
Yep.
but rather than going yes and, you go yes but. Yeah, do you want to start with something? So offer me an action that we could do together.
Let's go have some lunch.
Yes, but I'm not really angry.
Oh, but I'm starving.
Yes, but you're always starving.
Yes, but if I don't eat, then I'm not going to get my nutrition.
Yes, but if you don't get your nutrition, maybe you're going to feel better.
Yes, but my experience isn't that. My experience is that I feel tired.
Yes, but feeling tired, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes, but what kind of quality of life is that if I'm always tired?
So you see, what happened with the yes, but is we're not going anywhere. We're
No.
not doing anything, and we're just, pushing against each other. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, of course, the yes and stuff is a lot more fun to
Yeah.
play and to experience.
Mhm.
But also, I think, what interests me quite a bit in improv is that also people have the opportunity to experience themselves in this kind of weird environment. and to play the games and to see what happened. Because then, for me, the real value of improv is to realize what is your relationship to yourself and what is your relationship to the world,
Yeah.
and I find it quite interesting to give people the opportunity to do that without intervening and telling them how to play and exactly what to do, because then it's just again you follow a script or a recipe, which for me is kind of missing the point a little bit.
Yeah. And, we all have that innate player inside us, I suppose, that
Yeah, totally.
knows exactly what to do.
Yeah, exactly. I totally relate to that. Like, narrative structure, the you could call that, I don't know, the rule of storytelling or whatever. I've seen people applying those rules without even being aware of them or without even knowing them, just because they were relaxed,
Mm,
connected, they were having a great time. You
mm,
know, I've seen workshop where people try to burden you with all those rules and telling you to follow them and how to follow them. And the result is people that are in their head and that tend to follow the same script time and again, time and again, time and again. Hero's journey, here I come. Oh,
yeah.
another hero's journey. Oh, there's a hero's journey. Oh, the hero's journey. Hooray.
Yeah, life is about variety, right? And
Isn't it amazing when people do something that's never been done before?
mm,
And this is what happened when, and not just professionals, it can be achieved with people who've never done anything like that, but when people are really relaxed,
mm,
playful, like a 3 years old, the thing that 3 years old would say or do, and you wonder where is that coming from? That's genius. Where is that coming from?
yeah.
But it's coming from a place that got zero insecurity, I think.
Mm. And I think that's a lovely place to go back to. What were you like when you were 3? What bothered you when you were 3? Probably nothing. you know?
Yeah, I
Uh,
don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
And I think that's a beautiful thing to think about. So do you have any final thoughts to share with our audience today?
Um, well, I don't know if what it's like at your hands, if you're listening to that. What I've seen a lot, and talking with a lot of people. I'm in lockdown. I was going to say, okay, we're not supposed to be, but it feels like a lockdown anyway. So I'm what do you call it? What are we in? It's not a lockdown. What is it called? It's like
Well,
couvre.
in
Couvre.
England, we're in lockdown for sure.
Are we in lockdown?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, because I'm keep checking it with France, and oh yeah, France, they got the couvre-feu. What do you call the couvre-feu?
Oh,
When you
that's
can't
the
go out
curfew.
after.
The
Yeah,
curfew.
curfew.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. In France, they got a curfew until 6 p.m. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
but starting at 6, and they're probably going to go in lockdown soon. But in here, in London, it's weird because we're in lockdown, but all the shops are open, which doesn't really feel like a lockdown, if you see what I mean. Well,
Mm,
at least all the food shop and everything.
yeah.
So to answer your question, yeah, so this is our second lockdown. I don't know how you feel about it. For me, it's like I feel it a lot more than the first time around. I see a lot of friends. I see a lot of people
Mm,
who are kind of losing it a bit, who are feeling super tough. So
yeah.
what I would say is reach out, guys. Reach out if you find it tough. If you're having a hard time, you don't need to be alone. We got all this technology. We got all this stuff. We can go and take a walk in the park. Whatever. Reach out. Don't be super brave. Yeah, it's okay to reach out.
Yeah, I totally echo that. I think, including myself, I'm all right. I'm very blessed, but I've been feeling it more, and I think a lot of the people I know also would echo that. So I think that's a
Mm.
beautiful message. Do reach out, and how can people reach out to you and hopefully play with Love Explosion or one of the imprology classes?
So you find me on Facebook, Imprology. That's spelled Imprology. You Google me as well. You find my website. You find me on. I'm on Meetup as well, Facebook and or just the web. Yeah, and my name Remy Bertrand. You find me on Facebook as well. So yeah, reach out.
Reach out. Fantastic. Well, it's been lovely to have you, Remy. Thank you for joining us today on Inspired.
Thanks
And
for having me, Shai.
Absolutely. Wish you all the best.
And I can't wait to read one more of your legal stories, which I found absolutely gripping. I
Oh,
love them.
thank you very much.
Cheers.
Take
You
care.
take care.